We will also cover a few of the upcoming features that we have in our roadmap, and also some product news in that regard. So please stay tuned. And to ease your minds, this won't be a fully slide-dependent presentation. We will have a few demos throughout. So if we just move on for the next slide. Well, I hope some of you at least know me. My name is Simone Fontaine. I'm the Commercial Product Manager here with WorkPoint. And today I'm also joined by Dominick Cosgrove. I'll let you, Dom, give a brief introduction to yourself.
Yes, hopefully I've met most of you as well in some form. So I'm Dominick Cosgrove and I'm the CTO at WorkPoint.
Great. Well, moving on, we will start with one of the product news. And if we just move one slide ahead, we will take a closer look at one of the features that we have been really excited about, because this will be a big or can be a big impact to how you can adapt and configure the user interface for customers. So we have with a new feature called Entity Presentation allowed you to define either through adaptive cards technology or through handlebars, small areas of our user interface where you can design what we call customer-specific displays. And what that means is that you can change these to match how you and the customer need to have entities presented in the user interface. So as this example shows right here, you can design a small card that will display a project and some of the My Tools functionalities as buttons directly beneath that entity. This adjusts really greatly for the space that you give it. You can put it in as a web part, but it's also possible to have these various entity presentations in the WorkPoint Express panel in the browser as well. So when you are searching for entities and you are finding one, then instead of what you would usually have, the standard presentation in the bottom of the Express panel when selecting an entity, you can actually set it up to use one of these adaptive cards as we have displayed here. So moving on a bit, the entity presentation schemes, as we call it, you can define them, as I said, even either through adaptive cards, which are these small cards that is written using JSON, and it defines how the interface displays entities. You can also do it as handlebars that uses HTML writing for defining how to do this. This high amount of flexibility, of course, comes at if you could call it price, or the fact that it does demand that you have some insight into how to write the behind the text used to define this. We have provided a few examples in the documentation that you can directly paste in, and I'm sure that in just a moment you will see what I mean when I say paste it in. So to sort of support you and get started. Actually, we have a thought, and I would really like your views and comments on this in the chat. So please use that. Is this something where you could see that WorkPoint should make even more very generic templates for these things, or could it be something that you as a partner would want to say, hey, I have made a nice adaptive card that I believe could be of use. I would like to have WorkPoint make that as make it available to others. If that's something that you have a consideration about, please share it in the chat. And before diving into the demo mode, I just want to let you know that entity presentation, the feature, will be included in the enterprise licenses. So it's not an option. it's an option whether you use it or not, but it's not an option that have an additional cost to it for enterprise licenses. It is not available in the business, but enterprise customers, you can start implementing this in their solutions. And with that, Dom, I think if we head on, I'm pretty sure we have a little bit of demo of this.
Perfect, thanks, Simone. So hopefully I will bring up a browser, and if you can tell me if you can see it in a second. Can you confirm? Yep.
Yes, we see it perfectly.
Perfect. So yeah, I want to show this new entity presentation feature. So I'll start with the configuration side, and then I'll show you the kind of the output as such. So in our business modules, so you can set up the entity presentations per business module. I'll go to clients, and there's a new setting which replaces the old presentation settings that we had. So here you can set one or more presentation layouts, and then you can apply the presentation layouts. As you can see, I have already set up a couple just in case this demo doesn't work. But the idea is you can have what we call a standard, which is what we had in our classic or our previous version of entity presentations. You've got handlebars and adaptive cards. So to create a new presentation layout, you can click add, and I'll do the standard one first. So I'll do webinar standard. Yep. So hopefully you can see this is very similar to the existing functionality. So I can select which fields I want to show, etc. So I won't go through all of them, and you can obviously change the order as required. So this is very much the same functionality, hopefully, that you're already used to. And this obviously controls the presentation at the moment in the top panel. So we're extending that functionality. So the next one I wanted to show was actually using a technology called handlebars. So handlebars is a standard technology that basically looks and feels very much like HTML. So if you have any web designers or HTML coders, you can create your handlebars templates very simply. So hopefully you can identify that there's divs, there's styles, there's a table in this. And what you have is you have these placeholders that you can add. So this is the internal name of the field. So WP city, country, but you can get quite smart with them, and you can start doing things like for each loop. So if you have an account team, for instance, or a project team, you can actually list out all the users in that team. So I'm just going to take this one, which is a nice and simple one, and I'll just copy that, go back to my browser, and we kind of give you a placeholder here, but you can effectively put in your template text. So we have a support for kind of an inline code editor, so you can actually do some changes here if required. And what we also can do is go and get some sample data. So I'll go and get my entity 2, and this will load some data for me. So now I have some data, which is great, around my entity. So I better give it a name. So webinar handle. And then I can obviously test this. So it gives me the HTML output and a preview of what the card will look like. So if I save that, that's my handlebars template created. And then, as Simone rightly said, we also support adaptive cards. So adaptive cards is a technology Microsoft is really kind of investing in. I don't think it is exclusively Microsoft, but you'll see cards that are appearing in things like Teams, chats. So we've kind of taken on board that sort of capability into the WorkPoint solution. It is marked up as JSON. So if I just go back to my editor here, I have a adaptive card sample here. So I can copy that. But before I put it in to my editor here, just so you're aware, there is an adaptive cards documentation, and there's a designer. So the nice thing about this is I can actually come in here and I've got my card payload editor. That's basically the markup. So I can select all there, delete it, and I'll put my template in. I can start seeing some information come here, but my sample data, I can actually go and get my sample data from here and do load my data from entity 2, copy that into the designer. Now I'm starting to see through an editor what my card will look like, and you can then start looking at what would it look like in maybe Teams, what would it look like in a light theme, etc. So this is kind of a nice way that you can start actually building out your cards and card functionality to a WYSIWYG kind of designer. What you see is what you get. So I can test my sample, and here I've got my adaptive card preview, and better give that a name as well. Webinar. So now I've created my 3 kind of new layouts. I can apply these layouts to different places. So at the moment, our top panel it only supports the standard layout, but we will be supporting additional layouts in the future. So Simone will touch on that in a little while about the future of the top panel, but be aware that at the moment we're only supporting the standard presentation. And then you have the WorkPoint Express. So I can say, do I want to use adaptive cards, or do I want to use another view? So in this case, I'm going to select my adaptive cards and save that. So what does this mean from an end user perspective? So if I go into my demo solution, and I'll just go to my clients list, I've set an icon, logo, and things like that. So it automatically pulls that in. But I can go into my site and I have a contact card that I created through this layout. So this is the standard layout that was previously available in our web parts. This is a contact card. So I can go in and I can go and maybe change this one. I want to now not use the standard, and I might go and say, okay, well, I want to use the, what I should have done in a typical of demos is, like many of these things, clear the WorkPoint cache. So I can now go in and I've got my new, so I can do, so that's the standard one, that's exactly the same, but I can now put my new card layout. And as Simone rightly mentioned, we also are now supporting it in the panel. So if I go in and I select my client, for instance, I now have my adaptive card. What you'll notice here is I've got some action buttons as well, which we support. So I can click create document. So you can define what actions you want to support. So I think that's it from the adaptive cards. Back to you, Simone. I'll bring back the slides.
Thank you very much, Dom. And yeah, to our partners, I just want to highlight one of the what we believe is a really strong point about this one. First of all, it's we have been numerous times requested whether we could add more flexibility regarding how you can configure how solutions look to give it a touch that matches what the customer needs or wants, or their identity, or perhaps even your own. And this is really a way of doing that. So despite that it might take some time efforts into making these codes pieces that you need to put in, you can reuse those across different solutions. So once you have defined a card that you feel this matches a lot of my customers well, you can implement it in multiple places. It's also what we can see a very good way of highlighting those actions. For example, as Dom showed in the Express panel, that often if you have common functionalities that your users need to do when searching for items, then you can really highlight those, and that of course depends on your customers, and you can have that dialogue with them. So that has been one of the drivers, at least, for also implementing this. Okay, if we move back to the slides and a little bit on, I think I will actually hand the word over back to you, Dom, because I know you have a few things to mention here.
Yeah. So yes, apologies. Yes, I got the slide order slightly wrong, but yeah. So we've basically revised our caching approach in the modern UI. So it is only in the modern UI, and this is part of our overall performance strategy. Obviously, we want to make sure that WorkPoint is an extremely performant solution. So there's some newer caching methodologies and systems that we can use. So it's currently being implemented in our web parts, our top panel, and our WorkPoint Express. So effectively, anything accessed through the web interface will be, hopefully you'll see a performance increase or performance benefit. But it also allows us to store more information and cache more information. So the more information we can store and cache, the better the overall solution. So we're now using technologies like IndexedDB to store the cached information. It also removes some of the issues that may have been seen about the local storage cache getting full and having competition between other apps or other services that are also using caching. So rather than using the local storage web cache, by moving it into the IndexedDB, it gives us a lot more flexibility. So this is part of an overall strategy on performance in our front ends to make sure that the user experience is as streamlined as possible. Perfect. Apologies, there's nothing to really show, but hopefully you'll be able to perceive a performance improvement. The next item is the integration API for site creation queue. So obviously we've got our integration API, which we recommend using for migrations and the like. From a performance perspective, but we listen to you. We've taken on board the feedback about the using existing queues and things getting kind of competing in queues. So we've created a dedicated queue for the integration API. So this should hopefully see improved performance of your migrations. It won't impact other running jobs. So if you're doing site creation, large number of site creations, and you've got security jobs running as well, or inheritance jobs, they won't be affected. So this is a dedicated queue, and it'll allow you to run parallel jobs sequentially as well. I'll show the setting. There's not a lot to show apart from that. We have separated out the fact that the number of threads you can run between daytime and evening as well, because obviously with any migration or any integration, you run the risk of throttling. So we are being very mindful of throttling when we're designing this solution. In line with that, we've also updated our dynamic site creation job queue mechanism. So we now support two methods, synchronous, which is what we have today, and parallel. So parallel is probably the one we would recommend, especially if you are predicting that you're going to be creating a lot of sites through the dynamic site creation feature. So hopefully the diagram kind of shows where previously the synchronous would be, it's added to an existing queue. If you had, again, the inheritance, or if you had aggregation job, or you had a security job running, it would get queued in with that job. Now you can actually say, okay, well, put it in a parallel mode where the job will actually get added to the integration queue, which I just spoke about, and it won't then interfere with the lower priority or the other queues that we have. So Simone, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the licensing, or we just the fact that it's available in the enterprise license.
Yeah, so what we have done license-wise here is to, as you touch on, Dom, have this as almost an extension of our existing job queue manager functionality that are included in enterprise licenses. So this extension will be available to all those customers running on enterprise licenses.
Perfect, thank you. So demo-wise, I can show you the configuration options. So here we have, if I go into the ideas, I'll show the dynamic site creation first, if I can find it. Oh, it's up there. So for those that aren't familiar with the dynamic site creation feature, it's a feature that allows you to create site. So you have the option when you configure a module to say, do I want a site created automatically? So you can actually say, okay, well, I don't always necessarily want a site created. So I've taken the concept of ideation, where you might have ideas that are kind of created, they're evaluated, and it's only at a certain point in their life cycle that the idea actually would require a site. So based on some camel query, we can actually say when to create it. So this is some very basic camel query, and it basically says when the stage is at concept, execute this. So if I'm not a camel expert, there are camel tools out there, and I'm certainly not a camel expert, I can load it from a view. So I can actually go and create a view called concept and get camel. And obviously it's just going to put in the same as what I had because I did that previously, but you don't have to be a camel expert. You can put in your filtered views and generate it from the view functionality. And the new functionality that we've added is this job processing. So I've got parallel or synchronous. Synchronous was the previous option, and parallel is the new option. So what I will do before I run that is I'll just go to my ideas. Don't need to save that. So I have a new SharePoint syntax integration idea. I can change the stage. It's going into evaluation first. And then I can change the stage again. So you notice there's no site created for this one at the moment. And I can change the stage here, and I can put it into concept. The one thing to bear in mind about the dynamic site creation functionality is it doesn't run instantly, it's job based. So I can save and start the job now, or I can go to my job queue manager. Sorry, my schedule jobs. And I can see that I've got a job created that runs hourly here. So I can go and edit this, and I can do run now. So that will run that job, and I can view all the logs in the entry. And hopefully in a second, I will start seeing that job executing. If I go into my job queue manager, down here, I can see that it's running, and it will run. So while we're on this page, I will show you the integration API site creation queue. So you can now see there's an additional one here, and you can see that there's a minimum and maximum for a daily job and a nightly job. So daytime is defined as 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. Central European time, and evening from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. Central European time. And you can set the number of threads that you want to use during those times. Hopefully, if I refresh this, my job's still running, so I'll leave that to run. But like all good things, I've already created a concept, and you can see that the site's been created. So that's just a little bit of an intro to the integration API for site creation queue and the dynamic site creation queue job. So back to the slides, I think.
Yes, thank you so much, Dominic. And just before we head on, we have a really good question from David Eagle in the chat, and he asks whether we can, or it's possible to show different cards, and I'm presuming here that we're talking handlebars or adaptive cards, based on conditions.
That's a really good question, and I guess the answer is yes. You might probably have to put that into the adaptive cards logic. So adaptive cards actually supports, sorry, not adaptive cards, handlebars. I could see that being possible through defining logic. So you can put a condition in to say, show this presentation in this scenario and this presentation. So based on a property, you could actually do a kind of an if or case statement.
Great, thank you for that.
Hopefully that answers. Adaptive cards, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. But if there's a specific scenario, David, that you're also thinking about, please let us know, because it might be something that we haven't considered and might be, this is our entry into this journey, but we see a lot of opportunities. As I kind of showed, we can now do it in web parts in the Express panel. The future will be more Teams focused and the top panel as well, but I won't still or say too much about that.
No, but that's all right, because you're leading on perfectly to what we are going to talk about now, because a lot of these new things that, and especially the entity presentation functionality, is actually a front runner to some of of the things that are coming in our roadmap on a short-term basis. We'll spend a little bit of time going through what we are having in development for some of them, and some of it is actually in testing as well for release during the coming period. And if we start out with moving to the next slide, it is actually the top panel. I used to believe that the top panel is both beloved and hated because it has been no stranger to many that when you load pages, users will, if they have the top panel displayed, they will experience that there is this differentiation in when elements of the page loads, and that it does cause this effect of the page jumping up and down a little bit when you load it. Not so nice for the end users, and some have been really frustrated about it. So what we have spent a lot of time on how to decide to handle this the best way to give a good experience is to make a new design or new version of the top panel that will be available later in the spring. It's actually where the top panel is hidden, if you could almost call it, but available when you click the entity listed up in the breadcrumb. So it will be hidden when you load it first, but it will also be available as a web part. So if you wanted to have it displayed on the page on your site without having to sort of click it to see it, then you can put it in as a web part, and that won't cause this differential loading. So all in all, it gives a better experience when you load pages. However, it also comes with this increased flexibility of what information to display. You'll see here that it has gotten a bit of a fresh look, but it also comes with some configurability. And if we just move on a slide, you'll also see that the stage panel will be getting a new look, so that we hope to make it more clear to the end user if they have a stage model defined for their entity and they are on an entity page, what stage am I in, what have they been through, and where are they now. Also, if they have the sub-stages available, the functionality that we introduced last year, then it will be clear to see what sub-stages are in the current stage and where are they now, and what has been executed of sort of stage constraints in order to move on. And I believe, Dom, it will also be possible to combine our entity presentation with our new top panel.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So you'll be able to customize the previous view or slide.
Yeah.
About the entity.
So again, it's increased flexibility for you partners, for those who want it, and a fresh design for those who are fine using the standard that we provide. This will be a setting that you can decide whether to use this new version of the top panel or the one that is currently available in the browser interface. So you can consider that in the dialogue with your customer, because some of your customers might have educational material or documentation and so forth that they will need to update based on this new interface. So it will be a setting that you can decide upon. And if we move just one slide on, then I would like to have you welcome a new product that we are launching hopefully very, very soon. And that's our Teams App Studio. And what that is it's an app that you have in Teams that you or the customer can use to build custom apps for Teams that integrates fully with the customer's WorkPoint solution. So you can build apps that are taking functionalities from their WorkPoint solution. It could also be only parts of their WorkPoint solution. So you can build either per department or per customer specific apps, and you can manage them directly in Teams. And one of the things that I really like about this new thing is that it's very intuitive and it's no code. All you need is the URL for the solution that you are building to, and then you can actually get started. So if we just move one step ahead, you can also get a little bit of feel for the interface here. It's very Teams native feel that the user gets. The thought is that you as a partner, or perhaps even the customer's IT or area specialists themselves, sit and define what do my case management department need of functionalities in their WorkPoint Teams app, and then build the app, and then it can be rolled out via the Teams administration interface. And I believe, Dominic, if I'm not too wrong, that we actually have a little bit of a demo of this.
Yep, perfect. So I will caveat that this is our test environment. So as Simone said, it's an early view, a sneak peek of this feature and functionality. So I will caveat the demo with that. So this is our Teams App Studio. So you'll be able to download and install this into your Teams interface or distribute it via the Teams admin portal to the users that you want to have it. So we've kind of, as Simone said, focused very much on keeping it very much like it's a Teams app to generate Teams apps. So I've got this simple option to create a new Teams app. I can see my existing apps as well. And as Simone rightly said, all you need is a solution URL. So I will be cutting and pasting during this demo because there's a few things and save me typing. So there's my solution URL, and I can just validate that. That will do a validation to make sure it is a WorkPoint solution and it's not just a SharePoint-y site, because we want it to be aware of WorkPoint. So then I can give it a name, a short name. I can give it a longer name. I can do my typical Lorem Ipsum and put some Pig Latin in. And I could have spent some time last night writing a description, but I'm sure you will bear with me. And I can put some branding, so I can put custom logos and transparent. So you have to follow the definition of the size. I don't have any, so I'll use the ones we give you out of the box. So once I've given the app details, I can go and add some tabs. So this is where really the integration with WorkPoint comes to the fore. So when I click add, I can add a module list, a WorkPoint wizard, WorkPoint search, or custom URL. So for instance, if I go to my modules, I can select which module. So for this one, I'm going to call it projects, and I might call it all projects. No, I'll just call it projects for now, but I can select which view. I can then maybe add another tab and put my latest projects. Again, project module, and I can select my view US. And you can see that I can actually do things like ordering, so I can move this one up. So I can set that. But also there might be other functionality that I want to add. So maybe I want the user to be able to create a project. So I can do WorkPoint wizard and give this a tab name, create project. And I get my list of supported wizards. So, you know, if you have custom wizards, they'll be available here. And select which business module I want to be able to create. So I'll move that one up. And the final one is to add our search capability. So this one may be called document search, and I'll select my search scope, document search. And again, I'll move that one up. The message extensions I won't show today because that is definitely in development, so it's not available for preview at the moment, but effectively message extensions will really add some kind of smart logic, so you'll be able to, within chats, be able to interact with WorkPoint. So you'll be able to say things like, at WorkPoint, create me a project, or at WorkPoint, find me a project or case, etc. So wait till the next webinar, and hopefully we'll be able to show that in that one. But obviously, we work in geographically dispersed organizations, a lot of people, so we need to be able to support languages. So here, what we can do is I can download. So firstly, I can select what's the default app that I've created the app in. So all the labels I put in so far are English. So I better put my default app to be English. But I might want to support other languages. So I can download a template. It is in a JSON format, but hopefully it's fairly self-explanatory. So I can put in a short name. So I'll apologize, but my Danish is not the best. So hopefully that looks a bit like a project. Hopefully that looks a little bit like a Teams app project. And I don't think you can really translate Pig Latin. So we'll just copy in the Pig Latin here. This thing's not the quickest. So there's my, but I have to give the tabs a label as well. So my first tab was projects. My second one was latest projects. And my Hopefully Google Translate has worked for me. Should be a great project. There should hopefully be document search. So while it is putting it into kind of a JSON, hopefully I'm demonstrating that it's not too complicated. So I can save that. So it's localization template 11. You can tell I've done this before. I can now go and import that language. So which language is it? It's Danish. And click import. Go to my downloads. Go to my localization 11. And it's as simple as that to go and create a language pack or a language file for the Danish. So now I can package and distribute that. So I can download that. But sometimes you're editing it, you're not ready to distribute it. So the nice thing is when I come back onto my home, I can see my Contoso projects app. I can go and do things like edit. I could delete it if I don't want to. I can come back and can go modify my tabs. I can modify my languages. That's all being saved. I didn't click save at any point in that. It was automatically being saved. So I'm now ready to distribute it. I can get download. Allow download from here. It creates a zip package. In my case, it's the Contoso Project 5. So now I'm ready to distribute it. I can obviously upload it to the Teams admin center and deploy it through policies. But for the sake of this demo, I'm going to do it as a personalized app. So I can upload to for me. I can select my app. It'll give me the information that I put in. And I can add the app. So the app has been added. I now see the list of my projects. I can go to the next tab. I can see my latest projects. Obviously the same view, but I can go and create a new project through our wizard. And I can do things like our document search as well. So. I will caveat this is on our test environment, which is known to be very, very slow. So, and then the about provides you information and it tells you what functionality, and it'll link to the WorkPoint privacy and terms of use. But the nice thing about this is some people like to use different modes. So we do support the dark mode, the high contrast mode for accessibility purposes. But if I change it to the dark mode and I go back to our WorkPoint team app, our WorkPoint team app fully supports dark mode as well. And finally, if I go back to that Contoso project app, just to prove what we did worked, I can actually go and change my language to Danish. I have to do a save and restart. I can translate it. And hopefully it's picked up my labels correctly to be in the, as I defined in my language translation file. So that was a quick sneak peek of our Teams app functionality. I think we can go back to the slides.
Yes, thank you so much, Dominic. I can already see that some partners have applauded this and said that they like it. So we are really happy that you do. We like it ourselves as well. The thought is really here to embrace that so many people are moving into using Teams more and more. And what we were thinking about is a little bit about when users, we used to think that they spend a lot of time in Outlook, and admittedly have quite a few of them still do. So and they also in Outlook, they need their WorkPoint close at hand. So that's where we have WorkPoint Express. But we also wanted to have an option for those users who are finding themselves sitting in Teams more and more as the central work platform. And that's why we have created this product. It will be available for download in the Teams App Store. So they have this the general app marketplace or app store. where it can be downloaded. And that's also why we have built in this check to ensure that they are setting it up against a WorkPoint, because it wouldn't work very nicely if they try to do it against something else, and then we are also sure that it's a WorkPoint customer using it. But that's also basically that when it comes to licensing. There's no need for an additional license for this. You just need to be able to to be a WorkPoint user and to have a WorkPoint license. Okay, so if we move on a little bit, I actually touched upon it. You could almost say that we can see that today's communication is more than just sitting and managing your emails and writing back and forth between Outlook clients. So what we have decided to do is to transform our email manager product that some of you may know, and I hope you know, into covering a broader area, and that is communication management. So email manager will transform into communication management, and communication management will become a package just like email manager is today, that you buy in addition to your to the customer's WorkPoint licenses. So it comes with all the functionality that we have today for email management, but also comes with what we will cover in just a second, the ability to interact with WorkPoint solutions directly from Teams chat. So not the Teams App Studio that we just saw, but interacting directly, executing actions from Teams chat. And later this year, and that is perhaps the point that will come at the furthest end of this elsewise short-term roadmap, is after summer, in around early to mid autumn this year, we also will start to introduce functionalities for journalizing Teams chat and the contacts from Teams into WorkPoint. But if we move on, let me elaborate a little bit upon what I mean with this interacting with the WorkPoint from the Teams chat. So here I have, and this is in coding as of now, so no demos unfortunately, but we have a little bit of a sneak peek here. That is an example between two users that are interacting, and one of them pulls up an adaptive card that you can see from that we learned a little bit about earlier on, which comes with these functionalities, in this case to call a project manager or to edit the project that they have fetched. So it will be possible for people and end users to execute actions as defined on the adaptive cards directly from the Teams chat. And that's what we call these message extensions that Dominick touched upon just a little bit earlier on. If we move on, then I believe I have a slide, yes, about journalizing Teams chat. So what we're looking at is, first of all, saving individual chat messages. That can be if you want to document that a client or a customer confirmed something via a Teams chat, and say, for example, if you say, is it all right that we start out this implementation right now? And he said yes, then, I mean, before you would have an email trail perhaps on that, and depending on how your organization is set up and the size of the task and your contracts with your customers and clients, there might also be a contract framework behind it, but sometimes it's enough to get a yes, but you want to be able to sort of document that you got that yes. So that's one of the purposes we can see here. It can also be in the cases where you want to document all the dialogue between internal and external contacts on a project. So you can journalize the entire Teams chat. And then there's also the cases where you receive a file via the Teams chat. And if that's not already in WorkPoint, it will also be able to be saved into WorkPoint as well. So those were a little bit of the things that we see as part of this communication management area. and it will be something that we are expanding upon. If you have thoughts around this, or you can see different or extended use scenarios for some of these things, or considerations that we haven't taken, just I mean, we are really keen to hear about that from you. So let us know either here in the chat or take a hold of us afterwards. One thing I wanted to just make a brief mention about is actually regarding the Teams App Studio. So as we mentioned, this is in testing now, but we are really trying to see if we can get an early pre-release sneak peek out to you partners to get familiarized with early on. More information will come on that, and when I say early on, it's within the next 1 or 2 weeks already. So not late this summer at all. We really want to have some feedback from you about, is it natural to interact with? Does it function? Does it work well? Can you see it being used for your customers as well? And I believe if we move on, it's actually a bit of a wrap up. If you have any questions now, I can't see anyone in any unanswered questions, at least in the chat, but just yeah, please post them there, or if it's hard to formulate, you're welcome to in good order come off mute and ask them here. It doesn't seem to be, but that is perfectly fine. If questions come up regarding these things, get a hold of me or Dominick or whoever is your normal go-to contact here with WorkPoint, and we'll provide you the answers as best as we can. Elsewise, I think it's just a matter of saying thank you so much for joining. We know that this invitation came with a little bit of a short notice, but we are happy that you could participate. And as mentioned in the beginning, we will circulate the meeting slides and this recording afterwards, so you can share with your colleagues or rewatch any of what we just covered. With that, for me at least, I just want to say thank you very much and have a very nice afternoon. And speak to you all soon.
Thank you.